Thursday night football is here, an NFC South battle that hopefully will be a fun one today. We've got the Falcons and Bucks, and the work begins as it always does here on the Splash Play channel. We're going to look at stochastic projections, going to see what the top plays are, trying to see what the top value plays are as well. We'll check the ownership. We'll also go run across the aisle. We'll see what ETR thinks about things. Another leading data provider out there. We'll see what the solver cash game builds look like. If they have sims, we'll run them. We'll run a stochastic sim. I'll try to do a hand build. And by the end of this video, you will know all the industry's must plays, along with my three ways to get unique on today's NFL slate, Thursday night football, Falcons, Bucks. Let's get into it. Full disclosure here, Stochastic having some tech issues, so it is not going to be as cleanly set up as I usually like. We'll use their data hub tool, though, where we have some ownership. I believe the big issue is that Mike Evans not affected here correctly. The projections have him in, but the ownership does not. So just one thing to keep in mind as we go through here. Mike Evans expected to return today. Will it be limited snaps? Who knows? He's coming off a collarbone injury, which usually would mean his lower body conditioning should be where it has to be. But the Bucks have slow-rolled injuries lately for a few key guys coming back in. Bucky Irving, Chris Godwin prior to that. So I don't expect to necessarily get the full workload for Mike Evans today, but that's something else. I guess that's neither here nor there. The implied totals for Atlanta, 19.8 implied points. Bucks, 24.3. Decent total on the Bucks side. Falcons, though, not an awful total. Facing a Tampa Bay secondary that is not particularly good, giving up a 0.06 EPA per dropback, 0.07 EPA per pass. If you listen to the Stochastic strategy show this morning where I was on with Laffy, you heard me kind of talk a lot about, I think Kirk Cousins might be due for more positive regression here, and I think it's a good spot to target that. But certainly the Bucks the favorite, the Bucks better projected team, and the Bucks getting healthier, even though it will be a more crowded target share. When you bring Mike Evans in, you bring Jalen McMillan in for as many snaps as he'll play. Things are getting a little more chopped up. But your top projected play as of right now, it is Bijan Robinson, a 20.7 projection on him, 11.2 salary. So Bijan certainly going to be a guy we expect to get the most touches in the game potentially here, with him playing about 21.9 attended touches a game. Bucky Irving is at 21.2. So those are your two top guys in terms of the expected touch count. But for Bijan Robinson here, the big thing is that he'll be owned a good amount. As you can see, the ownership numbers are on the screen. They might be under my little bubble here is what I'm going to call it, which sounds gross for some reason, but the little circle with my face in it. We got 50.2% ownership, 29.7% captain ownership expected for Bijan. That should come down a little bit. These numbers do move around, and I think with Stochastic having their tech issues today, they haven't updated as fully as they would like. But Bijan Robinson does seem like he'll be a very popular play, and also a guy just projected a tier above a lot of the other guys in the slate. And also people too, I think when they are, going through the box scores early in the year, you might remember Bijan went for 100 receiving yards first game of the year against the Bucks. So spot where there is that prior box score stuff. Kirk Cousins has not targeted RB as well as Michael Penix did, but Bijan's certainly a guy who should get more pass game work against a tough run defense here. Is that enough to pay off his mega chalk? We'll see. Baker Mayfield at number 2, an 18.8 projection. Getting another body out receiver. I guess another 2 with McMillan and Mike Evans. Certainly not going to hurt Baker Mayfield at this point. But Baker, not playing super efficiently. In recent weeks, overall, 0.02 EPA per dropback. Not as good as Baker, I think, was held in esteem earlier in the year, especially. Negative 0.05 EPA per pass. Baker also not playing that well there. His catchable ball rate is fine at 80.8%. A little bit less than Kirk Cousins at a rounded up 82%. But still, Baker's getting the ball where it has to go for the most part. Don't really see where he's running bad. He's not playing great under pressure, Baker Mayfield. A negative 0.6 EPA on those plays. And the Atlanta defense, for whatever flaws it has, they do blitz at a 36% rate and get pressure at a 26% clip. Hurrying the QB 10%. All those are high numbers, relative to league average. Maybe not a great spot for Baker with the pressure stuff being his biggest flaw. But I think for Baker here, the offensive line, as Laffy pointed out to me on Stochastic this morning, offensive line getting healthier for the Bucks. So for Baker, that'll probably help him out a little bit. And again, getting more weapons in, all good stuff. But Baker expected for 58%, actually no, 57% ownership, 18% at captain. Does feel like trying to roll the dice with pass catcher. A little bit less of an owned pivot play to go to. And Baker at captain, I don't think he runs enough to feel great about that play at almost 20% expected ownership. Bucky Irving, I have him on the thumbnail. I thought Bucky would be mega chalk here, but in the first run of Stochastic data, only a 45% ownership expected and 10% at captain for Bucky. think I'd want to be up on both those numbers. Bucky's workload has been good since his return last week, though. As I think the Evan Silva and Adam Levitan on the ETR podcast talked about at great length, I think in a helpful way. Bucky had a lot of negative plays, which I was watching the game. I was like, all right, it's not great. Then the snap count really went up for Rashad White after that. Ended up being last week, Bucky Irving, 36 snaps. Rashad White, also 36 snaps. Sean Tucker, I think, was 12. Just confirm that. Sean Tucker was 12. So decent clip behind both guys. But the big thing is, like, Bucky will get the first crack. He ran hot to start versus New Orleans. Then things went downhill a little bit after that. But going against, a Falcons defense that is, I think, appreciably worse, giving up a 0.04 EPA per rush, only stuffing the run at a 15.5% clip, which is one of the lower marks in football. I think Bucky should be able to get going here, and he'll have the opportunity to do that. Again, if he does play poorly, Rashad White is so cheap at, I believe, 4,200. 4,200. If Bucky fails, Rashad White's chance of succeeding, I think it's a lot higher. And then if Rashad White fails, Sean Tucker maybe gets there, but the snap count's not high enough for me to feel super confident in that. But I think Bucky is the first shot you want to go. And if he's going to be 10% a captain, I think for me, having 20, 25%, it's where I'd like to get to. Kyle Pitts, 11% captain ownership expected, 44% overall. And I guess we're doing ownership and projections rolled up into one today because they're all on the same screen. Normally they're separate screens, and I like to parse it out a little bit more, but we'll just do it all in one swath. But Kyle Pitts, 13.7 projection, has been the main target earner with Kirk Cousins out lately. Real fast, I think it's worth doing the Kyle Pitts game log. Can't believe our guy Robert Griffin III, one of our most admired VIPs here. Can't believe how much Bucky Bijan I advanced in best ball. That's fantastic. Hopefully that works out down the stretch because Bucky's got some good matchups here. Just certainly he did not help out with advance rate. But Kyle Pitts game logs here. You can see this is early part of the year. The last few weeks, 3, 5. I think this was the last Penix game, right? But 5 targets for Pitts, 8, 10. The workload going up here. I do think that, to me, Darnell Mooney desperately due for positive regression. But for Kyle Pitts, you get why the projection is where it is. He's a little bit cheap as well, 6,400 in the flex. Today at captain, 9,600, way too cheap there. I get why he gets to a lot of lineups. Frankly, I think 44% ownership might be light on him as well. But I think Pitts has been a good play. Just do you think for tournament upside here, as we always talk about playing into the variance on a showdown slate, playing a little bit more of Darnell Mooney, unfortunately a move. David Sills played 60 snaps last week. He's out there a lot. And Pitts is a Q tag as well. As I said this morning, again, a lot of things I do say on Stochastic, but it's top of mind for me, so I'm saying them again. So I apologize if you listen to both and you're like, this guy's saying the same shit. But, for Kyle Pitts, he's a Q tag right now. I think if he doesn't play, I think this means like the Falcons as a team are just kind of collectively giving up. So I assume he plays here. He was limited in practice this week. I think he'll be a go. But really, he has been a key part of why Kirk Cousins has been one of the better QBs in football under pressure. And I think for Kirk, and for Pitts rather, I think he's benefiting from Kirk a lot more than he did from Penix. Is it weird to put Bijan and Algier in a lineup tonight? I wouldn't say weird, but it does feel like a kind of particular game script. And I probably have a hard time playing Bijan at captain with Algier in the flex. I think that Bijan's true upside would be if he scoops some of those goal line touchdowns. Algier doesn't get any. But because they're not expected to score that many points tonight, even though I think this could be more of a shootout than the markets are expecting. But yeah. I think playable, but one of them a captain, probably not the other one in the flex. Kirk Cousins, 12.2 projection on him. Our 5th highest guy overall, but a pretty big gap behind Bijan Robinson, who again was at that 20.7 projection here for Stochastic. Cousins also 29.4% ownership, only 2% in captain. I do think Kirk in the underlying numbers has been really unlucky in terms of how his deep balls have connected. He's only hit 15% completion rate on passes of 20 plus air yards, but his catchable ball rate on those plays I looked up earlier, he has had a 54% catchable ball rate on deep throws, and he's also on target 54% of the time. So I don't think it's really Kirk's fault that it's gone that poorly for himself this year. And really in this kind of spot, Tampa Bay has been good at defending deep plays as well. Only a 25% completion rate on deep plays, -0.1 EPA. just with how this team has gone and what I expect the ownership to be, which we're going to see more in a moment, I don't think people are going to trust Mooney. I don't think people are going to play Kirk. We're seeing that ownership right now at 2% in captain and 30% overall, despite being 8,800 at QB at fairly cheap for a starting QB. I think playing into the Atlanta pass game more is the move, and I think just them connecting on regression that seems due for both sides. Like, there's no reason that Tampa Bay's defense is so good downfield. I think they're just getting lucky. I think Kirk Cousins has also been unlucky on deep plays this year. So I'm willing to play into it here. I think playing the Atlanta pass game appeals to me more. People are going to play Pitts no matter what. So, like, the way to really get unique if you're going to play the Atlanta pass game is to play some of the deep targets a little bit more, and Cousins having success downfield. Is that placeholder ownership projections? I do still expect Durham to get Steam guys. The same ones that were on the Stochastics show this morning. They're going to update stuff. I think the issue right now is that the data does not reflect ownership for Mike Evans. So that's going to make, obviously, he'll come up a little bit. I would guess like probably a 25% play, maybe max. But he'll come up a little bit more, and then other guys will come down. But he is in the projection set. But basically, because they're having the tech issues, I think they were able to update projections, but not ownership this morning. Let's sort by value here. Top value plays: Devin Culp, Payne Durham. We have no Cade Otton right now, so these guys will be owned more than it looks like in the data. Currently has Payne Durham at 0.6% owned right now based on the pool ownership, which we'll see in the sim in a moment. I think Payne Durham's more likely to be projected for like 10 to 15% ownership. But with that value metric, and I think you could see our guy, KY here, very curious about it. I think people are going to really flock to paying the Tampa Bay or playing the Tampa Bay tight ends because it's so cheap here. You can play Payne Durham at $600. You could play Devin Culp, who's likely the backup tight end, at $200. And we'll see what ETR has for projections for these guys. My guess is that at least one of Payne Durham or Devin Culp is going to be in the cash game lineup. And and I think that's certainly like the ownership to me. I think people are going to be very happy to just play a $600 player, hope he hits. If the ownership were like, actually, if we're at 1%, you'd want to play the shit out of Payne Durham. If we're like 10 to 15, I think that's a fair number. Getting to 20% Payne Durham feels right. But if it ends up being like 30% Payne Durham, he might just be out there and do nothing. Like, he's really not earning targets at all when he is out there. And Cade Otton's role itself was not crazy valuable. And with adding in Evans, with adding in McMillan, there's not a whole lot. Like, they don't have to throw to the tight end if they don't want to. But, certainly a lot of snaps to go around. Cade Otton played 60 snaps last week. Payne Durham played 20-something. Played 23. So you're talking about like 83 tight end snaps between the two of them last week. So let's say Durham picks up all 60, whatever, that Otton leaves behind. Still 20 to go around for Culp and whoever else would be active at tight end that I don't really know who it would be. Dylan Drummond here played a lot out wide last week. Technically is earning more targets per route run than Darnell Mooney is. He's also technically earning more targets per route run in a limited sample size than Kyle Pitts is. Drummond, I think, a valid play on the slate, especially if you're not playing Mooney. I think if Mooney fails again, you have a better shot at Drummond finding that production out wide just out of necessity. And again, I also do think that Tampa Bay's defense due to get beaten downfield a little bit more. They just are running incredibly hot relative to what the underlying numbers are. So I think for Drummond, 2K salary here. If I had to guess, people will play, 25.5% ownership's a lot. If I had to guess, people will play like Payne Durham comparable amount. And in that case, I think Drummond would be a more interesting play to get to. But at a 2K salary, people might play both Drummond and Durham, and that's like all the value, and then just load up on the studs around that. We got Kyle Pitts, top value at number 4 here, despite being one of the better projected plays. So you got to imagine he's going to get into our cash game lineups and a lot of lineups overall. And then David Sills, 60 snaps, as I mentioned last week, not earning targets at all in any real way, 9.4% target per out run. He's also been really bad on deep balls, negative 1.3 EPA on those plays. For comparison, Darnell Mooney's at a 0.06 EPA, so also playing poorly relative to deep balls, which should be higher EPA plays. They both have sucked, but that's just been the offense this year. But Sills also getting 0.3 red zone targets a game, 0.2 inside the 10-yard line. That workload is pretty close to where Mooney is, pretty close to where Pitts is. So Sills, unfortunately, also in play at 3K. And your relative dollar per snap, like you're getting a lot of good value for a guy who's going to be out there a good amount. Tyler Algier, not too far behind. Baker Mayfield is a value, not too far behind. Do I like other the defenses? I don't think they're going to get played a lot. The issue is like for defense and kickers on the slate, I think both backup running backs, Algier and Rachaad White at 4K, and 4K for Algier, 4,200 for Rachaad White. I think it's a little bit too cheap for the backup running backs who have like legit roles. And I think in Rachaad White's case, he also was like, if Bucky just plays less, Rachaad White probably played more. So I think that makes it a little bit harder to love defensive kicker on the slate, but I think the kicker is going to be over-owned would be my guess. Defense, I think, might be under-owned. Let's sort by ownership real fast. And again, the ownership does not include Mike Evans here. Before I do that, guys, one quick ask. Adverse conditions right now, stochastic stuff not working perfectly, but I still show up here, do the work as best I can. So please help me out, guys. Hit that like button and subscribe. You guys have been showing up in a major way in the channel. We passed 5K subs, which, subscriber numbers, mostly a vanity metric. What matters more to me is the views, the engagements, how much you guys hit the like button, how much the feedback I get from you guys about how you're doing and if it adds value. But ultimately, still trying to make sure to keep hitting those numbers because the more I do that, the more successful we can be long-term here on these Splash Play channels with me doing the work for NFL, for NBA. So please help me out. Hit that like button and subscribe. Check out Stochastic too. If you're watching later on, hopefully it'll be back up. Right now, the site's not working, but 15% off the promo code SPLASH. All the cheap products, all the expensive products, just data stuff, or most of the Sims, the Max Sims packages, multiple sports stuff. It's all 15% off, and it does support the show whenever they get back online. So check it out over at Stochastic, 15% off the promo code SPLASH. Link down below as well if you want to click that link. And join the channel too, $5 to join. And I'll put up a QR code here if you want to support the show, but it does support me. You also get a premium stream on Fridays. You get my data sheet uploaded to Microsoft Office every week as well. So you get good stuff if you join for $5. So join along here and click the QR code. Click the QR code if you want to join that way as well. All right, ownership here. We got Baker Mayfield, 57.2% ownership, highest expected owned guy. I buy that. I think people don't respect Atlanta's defense very much. Baker as well. Instead of playing the receivers, trying to do the guesswork there, people might just play the QB. I have no issue with Baker Mayfield. It's a lot of ownership for him, though, for sure. And certainly there are ways the pass catchers can beat him out. Cousins can outscore him as well at cheaper. And then, yeah, there are definitely ways, I think, to not play Baker here. But, I get the ownership. I get the projection. I get the salary and all that. I'm just naming things that are part of DFS. I get the DraftKings. I get the, whatever. Bijan Robinson, 50% ownership, 29%, let's say 30% in captain if we're just rounding up as we should. It's a lot of Bijan Robinson. I think there are ways that he doesn't make a winning lineup today, especially with that pass game work being a little bit less reliable with Kirk Cousins. Certainly think he should be involved in every game, but that's not the way it's gone for him this year. So for Bijan Robinson, great projection. Data-wise, he should make most of the lineups, but I think it kind of feels a little bit to me like Jalen Hurts on the last slate, where I was one of very few people being like, I think the Eagles might not show up for this game, and it's a little bit jarring how much they're coming up. Jalen Hurts, like a player that was making it based on how people were viewing the slate and also the projections, and he just bombed entirely. I don't think Bijan's maybe got the full Jalen Hurts floor outcome here, but I think it's possible he does make a winning lineup. Bijan Robinson right ahead of Bucky Irving, 45% ownership overall for Bucky, 10% of captain. That feels low. The Bucky workload is there. He'll get the first crack to get the explosive plays going. And if he does get going, he definitely will stay on the field ahead of Rachaad White, ahead of Sean Tucker. I do think Sean Tucker's price tag is a little bit low for a guy that benefits if you have Bucky failing. And then okay, Bucky at 10-2 didn't pay off. Higher chance of Rachaad White getting there. But Bucky also not as good of a red zone role as Bijan Robinson. Bijan getting 2.9 red zone opportunities a game. Bucky's at 2.2. Algier is also at 2.2 for what it's worth, and Rachaad White at 1.8, obviously including also all that time when Bucky was out. But for Bucky here, I think he's in a good spot. I've liked visually what I've seen from Bucky. Still think, as I mentioned on Stochastic this morning, Bucky has been really inefficient in the run game. It stands out meaningfully in EPA. A negative 0.2 EPA per rush for Bucky for comparison. Rachaad White in the same offense, same situations, 0.07 EPA, and Rachaad White's like not really that guy. I think Bucky's fallen a little bit in love with his ability to miss tackles. And I think too, he just sometimes has gotten bad blocking on plays in the O-line. It should be getting healthier and better today. I think Bucky, the big thing is like, I want to play to the upside. I like him. I'm biased. Bucky's my boy. So I'll be here again above the field and the flex and captain. Kyle Pitts, think a very easy, obvious play today. Tight end matchup going against Tampa Bay. It's fine. It's nothing special. 14% target rate to tight end. 0.1 EPA per target to tight end. Also a little bit below average. Slot matchup's fine. The Kyle Pitts is fine. Really, he's been the apple of Kirk Cousins' eye is the main thing. We went to the target share, per game a little bit earlier. But I think for Kyle Pitts, he's a little bit obvious here. Do you think that Mooney getting going, seeing Cousins just hit a deep play once for a touchdown, if not just for enough fantasy points to make a lineup? I think that's a decent possibility here in a game too, where Atlanta, I think, expects to have to be aggressive because Tampa Bay is going to put up points against their defense that's not shown up super well this year. So I still think that you could get away with not playing Pitts. I think Mooney might outscore him, but Mooney's more expensive. So, I don't have an issue with playing Kyle Pitts. He's 6,400. He's way too cheap for what the role has been, and the fact that he's looked the best he has since that rookie year where he was so good. And then Emeka Egbuka, also 32% ownership overall, 8.4% in captain. He has not been able to get open like a number one receiver. People thought he was. He really ran hot to start the year. I talked about it on stream. A lot of 50-yard kind of double coverage kind of situations. Defender falls down shit. And it's not to, slight Egbuka. I think he made the most of opportunities, including a lot of the end zone work that he got at good volume to start the year. But he's not been super efficient. His catchable ball rate's low. For a guy that's had as many high EPA plays as he has, the fact that he's only at 0.06 EPA per target reflects how inefficient he's been on the plays that aren't going for it all. But he's still getting 8.7 targets a game on paper, 27% target per out run. Getting Evans back in is not going to help that. He has been the highest target per out run guy on the Bucs, 29% rate for him when he has played the few games he played this year. Chris Godwin's been at 24, so he should be third in the pecking order. But really for Egbuka, I think you have a higher shot of him getting those wide open touchdowns or broken play touchdowns because he'll be a guy they worry about a little bit less. But Evans certainly takes some PPR points away. Godwin is looking better week to week. He takes some away as well. He played over 50 snaps last week. I think Egbuka, at this ownership, it's a totally fair number. But if he were any higher owned, I wouldn't want to be there. I think being with the field on Egbuka, you don't want to miss out on the theoretical upside. But, projection's a little bit low for a guy who has really underperformed for almost as much of the season as he overperformed. But that's the ownership overall. Captain, we can short by real fast. Bijan 30%, Baker Mayfield 18.4, Pitts at 11, Bucky at 10, Egbuka 8.4. Again, Egbuka should come down a little bit because of Mike Evans being in. He might not come down that much though. All right, let's go to ETR next. Hopefully they'll have more updated data. All right, we're logged in here and good to go. And real fast, since Stochastic didn't have everything updated, let's take a quick look at ETR's data just to get another read on it. Before I do that, though, guys, again, hit that like button and subscribe. Goes a long way for me here. And do check out the links in the description. Again, Stochastic, not up right now, but hopefully it'll be up with some of you guys who watch the video after the live. Hopefully it'll be up later on. But please, I need that affiliate. Stochastic, please. I need that affiliate money. I can't convert if the site's down. Your top owned plays, Bijan Robinson, 50.6% expected in the flex here at ETR data, 30.2% at captain, because they're expecting even more chalky Bijan. Oof, that's a spicy meatball. Bucky Irving, 39% owned in the flex, 11% at captain, so they think he's going to be low owned too. I like Bucky a lot. I don't know why the ownership is this low for Bucky. It's a tough price tag, I get it. But I think it's a really good. I think it's just like a Bucky gets on track spot. And I think we've seen enough from him coming back that they get a soft matchup. The Saints D is good. I get why he kind of faltered a little bit against them. I don't think he's going to falter the same way against Atlanta. Baker Mayfield coming in at 56.5% owned. And then 13.2% on top of that at captain. The Egbuka, Evans, they have a little bit flatter than Stochastic did. Nothing that crazy here. Seems pretty close to what Stochastic had. All right, but let's briefly put a decimal point on the projection. Let's run our cash game lineups here. We'll see what ETR has. Of course, the point of looking at the projection-based build, our cash game optimals with ETR data is that, number one, a lot of people playing on just every DFS slate are using ETR projections. So that's the first part. Number two is that when you see projection math and how it works out that players get into lineups, all the top 25, some of the top 25, who they're paired with. You get a sense what the underlying projection is going to push people to when they're building lineups, whether it is you're kind of just using the numbers, looking at them, or if they're, running sims. That's sort of the way that works. So really important part of the process here. So that's why we do it. Bijan Robinson, your captain in the cash game lineups. If you are playing a cash game, 12:27 p.m. on the East Coast, this would be it. Bijan, Bucky, Baker Mayfield, Kyle Pitts, Zane Gonzalez, the Falcons kicker, and Dylan Drummond makes it into the cash game. A little bit surprised to not see Payne Durham. It does make him, to me, a much more compelling tournament play. But Dylan Drummond had a decent box score game last week. 5 point, really? 2 of the last 3 weeks, 5 fantasy points. So he will come up in the box score a little. I do think Mooney, though, if Mooney hits, I just don't think Drummond is as likely to hit. Overall, in these top 25, Baker Mayfield is at 100% of them. Kyle Pitts is at 100%. Bijan is at 100%. So general rule of thumb is when these guys are making all the top 25 optimal lineups, number one, they'll get played pretty much automatically by a lot of the field. Number two would be if you get away from these guys, that'll strip you away from large swaths of the field's ownership. And I certainly think there are outcomes where Baker gets outscored by his receivers and running backs, where Kyle Pitts just doesn't play as well, and Mooney, Drummond, Sills, whatever gets there, or just the Falcons pass game, totally craters. Bijan, you could always lose touchdowns to Algier. Does feel like he's still likely to make it in the flex, but at his salary, if all the other pay-up options hit, that makes it a little bit less likely. So there are ways to get unique right away here with Baker, Pitts, and Bijan making every lineup. Bucky and Baker also make it in half these lineups. So that's a large portion of the lineups here that consists of Baker, Bucky, Bijan, and Kyle Pitts. A lot of Bs, but it's a lot of lineups that have kind of similar feels. 4-2 Falcons comes up the most. 55% of these lineups have at least 4 Falcons. Another 36% have at least 3. So about 92% of the top 25 lineups are Falcons dominant, or at least Falcons 50-50 with a 3-3 build. So building more Bucs dominant stuff might make you more unique. And I think that's certainly one way the game theory or the game flow for how the slate looks could go. All right, ETR does have Sims ready. This is really interesting, honestly. Like, this was a more, I feel like, revealing run of this optimal lineup build than we usually get. Let's pull this in. And let me make 2 uniques. And let's put on variants. We're going to build 250 lineups here and sim it out. And again, ETR has been fully updated, so we should get a pretty good read on where things are going to go. But while this works, guys, again, please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Goes a long way for me here. Just one guy showing you my gambling across the NFL, across the NBA, where I did get to notch a first place the other day. Let's ignore the fact it was a 15-way tie. But it still felt good to get that first place under because I've been sniffing around in both sports lately. But I'm feeling good about my process. Hopefully it adds some value here for you guys. And if nothing else, if you're just going to fade everything I say, hit that like button and subscribe so you can fade everything in every video. And again, links down below, Stochastic. Hopefully you'll be working in a little bit here if you want to get the data, the sim stuff. Of course, when it updates, you want to see it hot off the presses. Get it for yourself with the promo code SPLASH or the link down below for 15% off. And of course, join the Discord, $5 to join here. I'll put up the QR code one more time, but it does support the channel directly, and you get pretty good value on it. Premium stream for me every Friday, going game by game with all the advanced analytics. You also get a copy of my data sheet, updated Saturday with all the stuff you need to see that I look at when I'm doing streams. So check that stuff out. Or use the QR code if you want to go and join the fun, the hijinks, the miscreants. That's not a thing. Miscreancy? I don't know what the noun form of being a miscreant would be. Miscreanery? That's not it. That's not words. All right, let's sim this out. Gonna take advantage of the portfolio tools. I've been using the one on Saber Sim lately for my NBA lineups, and I'll probably play with it for NFL as well. Really been happy with how it's been working using these portfolio tools that these sites give you. Really helpful stuff, I think. I guess it just helps you diversify a little bit more across your set of lineups, which is always helpful. Sometimes you're playing a lot of the chalk and you want to have looks that take direct leverage on that chalk, and doing it automatically with some of these stuff like ETR has, like SaberSim has. On Stochastic, just using the uniques is probably your best way to do that. Helpful stuff. Been a part of my focus lately, which I think has been helping me get better returns. really for both sports. Even on the Tyrod slate on Sunday, like that could have been much worse if I didn't have my portfolio kind of managed well. So just as I always say here, just try to talk about stuff that's relevant to me on these slates. And check out the solver too. Link down below for that if you want to see this stuff in action as well. Your top ROI lineup though, Bijan Robinson, captain. This allegedly has 0 dupes. Bijan Robinson, Baker Mayfield, Emeka Egbuka, Zane Gonzalez, Rashad White, Tyler Algier. There's no chance it's a 0 dupe lineup. No chance. But it does leave 1,200 on the table. But no chance. That's all legit players. A kicker that's like kind of naturally come up a lot. I don't buy that. Your number 2 ROI lineup though, Bucky at captain. I love that. Bijan makes it in the flex. Baker Mayfield, Kyle Pitts. So you're playing all the 100% top 25 optimal chalk. Bucs D, that'll make us less owned along with Bucky at captain. And Payne Durham, who at 12% owned, that seems too late. Number 3, we have Dylan Drummond at captain. So we're digging deep here. Bijan Robinson makes it. They're just jamming in the studs. Bucky, Baker, Egbuka, and Bucs D as well. So presumably Bucs D is what keeps Kirk Cousins from making it / Baker and Bucky both outperform him, Egbuka as well. Interesting lineup. Number 4, we got Sills captain. Bijan Robinson, Baker Mayfield, Emeka Egbuka. A lot of Egbuka. Rashad White, Kirk Cousins. So it does seem like you're getting Bucky or Rashad White in most of these. This one, only 1 dupe expected, leaving 2,100 on the table. I could live with that. Number 5, you're either fading Bucky or playing him at captain. Bucky captain again, Bijan, Baker Mayfield, Zane Gonzalez, Tyler Algier, Falcons D. Defense is coming up more than you would think. No Chase McLaughlin up top. A little surprised by that. Disbanded Brotherhood. I feel like usually you leave a period in the chat, but you smoke weed every day. Sure, that's that. Miscreant is both the noun and the adjective. Well, no, like I'm talking like what would be the act of like a miscreant? Like what would miscreancy? You're just gonna make me look it up. Miscreant noun form. Okay, the miscreant was caught. Okay, act of being a miscreant. Now this is just this is why AI doesn't work, guys. I don't care how many views we're gonna lose here. Maybe it's one of those words where there just isn't like a thing that covers it, but like it should be like patience, like there should be something like that, but there isn't. Anyway, back to the ETR sims. KY, I feel like just answered a question I wasn't asking, but we're not gonna get to the bottom of it today. It seems like overall highest ROI players in this ETR sim. You got Bucs D, 207% ROI, barely getting played, but when it does hit, it is winning you a good amount of money. Rashad White, only 13% exposure, but 146% ROI. So that's number 2 overall. Payne Durham, again, if he's not going to be like owned out the ass, I think he makes all the sense in the world because there's a ton of tight end snaps to go around. Payne Durham, 118% ROI and 20% exposure, including a little bit of captain. Tyler Algier, 117% ROI and 25% exposure. So another guy who does pay off is leverage against that Bijan ownership for sure. And Emeka Egbuka, he was coming up a lot, 114% ROI across being in 49% of these lineups. So even with Evans being in this data set, even with Godwin obviously being in the data set as well. McMillan is in the data, but I don't think he's getting played. You are getting a lot of Egbuka. That is a lot of Egbuka. Nothing to note over here. All right. Well, let's run a stochastic sim. We'll see what they have for us. So I think things are going to work correctly here. All right, there we go. Merriam-Webster has miscreancy as a word. It's just archaic. Okay. No, don't give me other fancy words. Archaicy. But okay, miscreancy would have been what I would have thought based on the root words. I could live with that. All right, so we do have updated projections, but not ownership. But the way the stochastic sim works, I think it'll still kind of put Mike Evans where he should be here. So let's run the stochastic sim, and we'll do a single lineup sim too, assuming that also works, which maybe... No, it does seem to work okay as well. All right, so we'll get the last stages of the journey here. Again, guys, hit the like button, subscribe. It is Right now, I'm a football player and playing in adverse weather with the Sims being fucked up. ETR though, to their credit, ETR working fine today. So maybe today's a sign up for the solver day. But both products, I'm sure will be working by the time we get closer to lock here. So check out Stochastic, link down below. Solver, link down below. You guys know the deal here, and we'll see what the Stochastic side of the equation has for us. We expect rabbit holes. I guess that is part of the show. That really is part of what my brand is as a human being, but certainly what Splash Play is as well. You still get what you got to get here. Just you got to sometimes see what the noun form of miscreants, of the act of miscreant being a miscreant is, and it's miscreancy. We got there. Your top ROI lineup in Stochastic data right now: Kyle Pitts, Baker Mayfield, Bijan Robinson, Chase McLaughlin, Kirk Cousins, Tyler Algier. So you are playing Bijan, you are playing Baker, you are playing Pitts. Theoretically getting less owned with Pitts at captain, but I think Pitts captain's going to be pretty owned. Yeah, and I feel like the low-owned piece here is just playing Tyler Algier, maybe. Fading all the Bucs receivers. Fading Bucky is, I guess, fading Bucs receivers and RB. Guess that might be enough to make you unique. And leaving 14ers on the table, too, in that top lineup. Number 2, you have Darnell Mooney, captain. These are the ones I like. I think Mooney's been so bad, and people are going to be so off the scent, but he's playing a lot, and he will get those early targets, and if they hit, I think you're doing it. But Darnell Mooney, Baker Mayfield, Bijan Robinson, David Sills, Kirk Cousins, Kyle Pitts. I like that lineup. Getting a lot of guys. You're playing a lot of snaps. You're playing Kirk, playing into the Kirk pass game. Falcons dominant lineups, projection-wise, should be higher owned, but going onslaught, I don't think will be. Number 3, Bijan Robinson, Baker Mayfield, David Sills again, Kirk Cousins again, Kyle Pitts again. Rashad White makes this one. Real lack of Bucky up top here, but I don't love that lineup, but it's totally valid. I have no real issue with it. Number 4, another Bijan at captain. Bijan, Baker Mayfield, Chase McLaughlin, Emeka Egbuka, Kyle Pitts, Payne Durham. Our first Durham look here. Number 5, Bijan Robinson, captain again. Bucky Irving, David Sills, Falcons D, Kirk Cousins, Kyle Pitts. Yeah, I mean, no issue with this. A lot of Sills coming up, I feel like. A lot of Sills, a lot of Pitts. Big slate for the legacy names, with Sills the 5th of his name and Pitts a senior. But and Chris Godwin a junior now. But yeah, I don't know, man. These lineups, I think I like the Mooney one. I like Falcons pass game stuff a little bit more, but I get it. Urban Dictionary: a small, important person who has a life of a crime. Use it as a sentence. Whoever creates the underdog pods is a miscreant. I've not looked at pods. Again, I'm staying totally uninvested in these until we get to the semifinals, and I'm going to really dig into my teams more. But as it is, it's just going to be found money for me because I have no investment in any of the teams that I'm advancing right now. Because it is such an injury. I looked at there's like a best ball portfolio site, and my injury rate this year was 67%. I had 4 teams out of 150 in BBM that had no injuries at this point. I'm like, how is that? I know I bought into injuries too much, but like I also just got everybody hurt, and that includes guys like missing time for IR. But it's like unfucking believable. I hate it. So we'll see what we get in week 16 and week 17. I am not invested in best ball. That's why I don't talk about it at all. Killing it in the pit bull, though. I have 4 teams advancing in the pit bull, so that's the one I have the highest hopes for. But top ROI players, people want the best ball update. That's all you're getting from me. I'm so like, if I win anything, it's just gonna be like, oh, cool, nice surprise. But I just, at this point, I can't. Kyle Pitts, negative 0.1% ROI. Top guy, captain here. Again, he's too cheap. People are going to know that he's played well. Silva and Levitan talk about it, which is one of my, like, the market's going to know this stuff kind of tests. I like Kyle Pitts. I just think everything is saying to me, just try Mooney. Just play Mooney. And I know Mooney has failed so bad. He's been awful. This is so much Pitts coming up. Number 2, Bijan Robinson, negative 5% ROI captain, but he is still your number 2 ROI guy. And again, the way the directionality points is our key part. We're looking at the ROIs. Number 3, Baker Mayfield captain. So all of our chalk plays and ETR data coming up as your top captain plays with his first run of stochastic data. Chase McLaughlin in the flex at number 4. Falcons D in the flex, number 5. Baker Mayfield in the flex, not too far behind. Bucs D in the flex, not too far behind. I didn't favorite the lineups. My bad. Overall highest exposed guys. You're getting Baker Mayfield 70% in the flex. Fields at 55. Big stand in favor of Baker Mayfield at QB here. Obviously playing flex or captain. Bijan Robinson, 50% exposure to the flex. He's your top projected guy, and he's making a lot of these lineups. Kirk Cousins, there we go, 47% exposure. Fields at 28. Really do think that Kirk is still throwing a high enough catchable ball rate that at a certain point, I tend to think that pays off. Certainly he's down to dog shit talent at receiver, but he's getting the ball where it's supposed to go. Kyle Pitts at number 4, 41% exposure in the flex, which is a little bit under the field at 43. And Chase McLaughlin, 41% exposure, Fields at 27. You're going to get kicker a lot here. 41% flex, Chase McLaughlin. 31% flex, Zane Gonzalez. I think whenever kicker comes up easy, you just don't play kicker, but we'll see. Highest leverage plays, Cousins in the flex. Actually, let's look at captain first before we do that. I appreciate the kind chats here. After a call on Hurts, which ultimately won the mini-max slate. There we go. Inclined to Captain Mooney. Thank you for that. Like, won't always pay off like that, but I try to point out stuff that I think is still very much in the doable range of outcomes that it's getting underplayed or overplayed. And really appreciate the work here. Love the personal opinion on stuff, not just to play this, don't play that. Thank you. I try to explain where I'm coming from. Ultimately, as I strongly believe, you guys should just make your own decisions. We all should do that in life. But I try to show you guys the sides of the coin here, you know, ultimately default to the ownership and the data. That's the most important part. Like I always say, like, I love my advanced analytics stuff. I think it's been really important, especially for me, last few weeks down the stretch. But ultimately, like, if I'm getting guided to a play that's like mega chalk, you still have to just remember that, like, you know, the chalk is here. This guy's not owned, that kind of stuff. Bijan Robinson, 42% exposure at captain. Fields at 27. So Bijan, you are getting in about 92% of lineups overall. So Stochastic is saying straight up, don't fade Bijan besides a few lineups in the top 150. Kyle Pitts, 25% exposure at captain. It's a lot of Kyle Pitts. He is also owned 41% in the flex. So Kyle Pitts at about 70% of your top 150 lineups here in Stochastic data. Baker Mayfield, you're lightly fading a captain, 13% exposure. But he's still in 83% of lineups, including the flex exposure. So really here, your three, very obvious optimal plays that we saw with ETR data, Bijan, Pitts, Baker, coming into all the Stochastic lineups, coming into all the ETR lineups. If one of those guys fails, let alone 2 or 3, Field's going to be left holding the bag. And then Mooney, Evans at 5% captain, Mooney at 4%. Stochastic also strongly fading Bucky, which blows my mind. Highest leverage plays, guys at Stochastic once you get above the field on the most here. Kirk Cousins in the flex, 19% more in the field. I agree with that play a lot. So I'm glad to see that Stochastic data at least supports me on that one take. Bijan captain, you're getting 15% more in the field. Big stand on your highest projected guy, and Bijan Robinson. Baker Mayfield, 15% leverage on the field. He's coming up in 70% of these lineups in the flex. Fields at 55. Chase McLaughlin, 13% leverage in the flex. It's a lot of a kicker. So keep in mind then, you play the Oppo kicker, Zane Gonzalez, that gets you some theoretical leverage. You fade kicker, play defenses, that can get you more unique. Or just play into a game where the team scores more touchdowns because the field is going to be expecting, and people using these sims are going to be expecting field goals today. Kyle Pitts, 13% leverage in the captain spot. It's a big stand on Kyle Pitts captain. Mika Buka, big fade on him in the flex. So seemed like ETR loves him. Stochastic, not so much. 11% exposure overall. Negative 21% leverage in the flex. Dylan Drummond, negative 17% leverage here in the flex. So only 10% of lineups. Stochastic's top 150 have him. Chris Godwin, negative 15% leverage. That's only 12% exposure in the flex. That is a big fade on Godwin. Really feel like he passes the eye test. And also just getting 50 snaps a game. I think Godwin, I like Godwin. Bucky, they're fading in the flex as well. I don't agree with that. They're fading him in the flex and captain. Real big anti-Bucky stand. Man, Stochastic data not doing it for me. Well, I don't want to build a lineup now. Because all the guys I like, the sim is going to poo-poo, but we're going to do it. Let's build this showdown. Large field, 25% the first, same way we just ran the sim. Am I going to go Bucky captain? The sim will really hate it if I go Bucky captain. But let's go Bucky captain. I'm going Kirk. I'm going Mooney. I'm going to fade Pitts and Bijan. I'm going Algier at his price tag. Do I play? We know the sim loves kickers, but I think we could play Zane, at least lose some ownership on Chase McLaughlin. So 4 Falcons, Bucky captain. Then we know the sim is in love with Baker Mayfield, so we'll give the sim that. Negative 90. I don't think it's going to be negative 98. But we got Bucky, Kirk, Cousins, that is. Darnell Mooney, Tyler Algier, Zane Gonzalez, Baker Mayfield. It is positive. A 0.8% ROI, but a 0.2% win rate. Not high enough. Let's see. What can we swap off of here? All right, so let's... I mean, it's not going to like Bucky at captain no matter what. But let's play Kyle Pitts, because we do know the sim is going to be happy to get some Kyle Pitts. It thinks Kyle Pitts is the belle of the ball. We're still getting unique by playing Algier and Mooney. And now we have 8,900 left, which leaves us playing Chris Godwin, who the sim doesn't like. Oh boy, this is going to be a negative number. All right, so Bucky captain, Kirk Chains, Darnell Mooney, Tyler Algier, Kyle Pitts, Chris Godwin, -6, and it never wins. This is literally impossible to win, according to the data. All right. Here, let's keep the 3. And here's sim. 10% randomness. You complete the lineup, sim. You want to play Dylan Drummond, Kirk Cousins, Kyle Pitts with Captain Bucky Irving, Baker Mayfield, and Darnell Mooney. All right, $900 left on the table. Is it a positive ROI? 11% ROI. All right, fine. That's enough for me. Bucky, Baker Mayfield, Darnell Mooney, Dylan Drummond, Kirk Cousins, Pitts. So we got to play the guys we wanted. We faded Bijan here. And we faded Baker. So we faded... Oh, no, we got Baker in. Never mind. Yeah, we just faded Bijan here. We played 2 of the 3 chalk guys with Baker and Pitts. Really think, man, if, like, there is a world where those 3 guys just don't make it. Because, like, there's enough talented players around it that Baker, Bucky, or that Baker, Bijan, and Pitts could not make it. I think that might win all the money tonight. But let's do the 3 ways to get unique. Before I do that, though, one last run through plugs, guys. So first of all, please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Again, no matter what's going on here, I show up to do the best work I can for you guys. Mondays, Thursdays, showdown slates. Friday, tomorrow, 12 p.m., the main slate. Premium video at 1 p.m. I really do a hard job here. What? That's not words. I put in hard work here in the hopes of doing a good job for you guys. That was a sentence. And adding some value to your process here, and the work continues on for me throughout the playoffs. So please do support the show, hit the like button, subscribe, especially if Stochastic is not back up. But if they are up, please use the promo code SPLASH, 15% off. Only deal they have going right now, and it applies for the NFL, for the NBA, for NHL, MMA, whatever you want to play, and it does support the show because half the money you pay to them comes back to me. And again, hopefully they will be up soon fully. The sim stuff is up right now, but the site itself, the front-facing site, not up. And join the Discord as well. $5 to join here. You get access to the Discord. You also get my premium videos on Fridays. You get my data sheet as well. All the stuff I reference here on stream, both here and Stochastic. You get a look at that yourself. So please join down below. Check that out. Probably the only way you'll see the Sports Info Solutions data that I put together. Great product, but it's expensive. So I'm lucky to get access to that for my Football Outsiders days. All right, 3 ways to get unique. Number 1, fade at least 1 of Baker, Pitts, Bijan. Those guys coming up naturally, projection-wise, Sims feeding them too. And it's important to keep in mind, especially with those 3 guys, like the reason that plays become chalk is because they're the best plays in the slate. And Bijan, great role, great projection. Same thing for Pitts with how he's played lately. Baker, obviously so much of the offense flows through Baker Mayfield. But if the pass game defers to the run game for Tampa Bay, if Darnell Mooney gets going, if David Sills gets going, if the entire Atlanta pass game craters, like it's if Atlanta craters entirely and Bijan and Pitts fail, like there's a lot of ways it could work out differently. So just whenever you see like lineups that's half the lineup that you're putting together, really concentrating around 3 guys, just fading 1 of them, fading 2 of them, fading 3 of them, that could be what wins all the money. Second way to get unique here. It's a lot of kicker coming up. I think if you don't play kicker, especially McLaughlin, but I think fading both kickers, playing just touchdowns being scored more. Both teams have merits in the red zone. Tampa Bay a negative EPA red zone pass defense, though weirdly they get killed by the run in the red zone. And Atlanta negative EPA red zone run defense, but get killed by the pass in the red zone. But still, I think just playing into touchdowns being scored here. When kickers come up naturally, kickers are really variant, just playing oppo ways. And when you have RBs cheap, you have Payne Durham cheap, you have frankly Drummond cheap, and his role is increasing as Mooney sucks. You have really the backup RBs, though, the big one. You have the defenses cheaper than the kickers. A lot of ways kicker not make it. So, play him some, but I really wouldn't play both kickers tonight. And also if you play the kickers with Baker, Pitts, Bijan, keep in mind that's now 4/6 of a lineup that's like entirely filled as what the field's going to be playing. Third way to get unique here. Based on stochastic data, it's playing Bucky Irving. I'm surprised at how low that is. But I think just I kind of want to force in one of Bucky or Rachaad White. I just think one of them hits. I think one of them makes a winning lineup. It seems like you're not naturally getting either, and I just think that should be like I just think they score. So and I don't think the ownership's going to be there enough, at least based on what stochastic and ETR seem to have. So that's that. But that's my takes on today's slate, guys. I did do the stochastic morning show, so I will not be on the live before lock. I do the morning show or the live before lock is how it works for me on stochastic for showdowns. But check out my video this morning with Laffy. We did a good job navigating, not having access to the sim stuff on screen. And I think Laffy always highlights some stuff that I'm not aware of, in particular the O-line improvements here with the injuries ending for a few guys for the Bucs. So check that stream out on stochastic. I also will be doing the NBA stream today, 2 p.m. So tune into the @SplashPlayBets channel. If you're watching on Twitter, you can see it in the same place. But come join me on there. NBA, of course. Been making money on there. Been getting good takes out. That process continues again today for an NBA slate that tips off basically the exact same time as NFL. So that's gonna be fun to navigate tonight. Make sure to gamble responsibly, guys. Even though it is always money time here on this channel. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at SplashPlayPod on YouTube and on Twitter. 2 p.m. NBA on the @SplashPlayBets channel. Join me there. And of course, click the links down below. Sign up for stuff. It does go a long way for me here. I'll see you guys again soon. Enjoy your days. Good luck. Go Bucky, go. And bye-bye.